Hey guys, I have not done a live show in a really long time because we didn't have good enough Wi-Fi here at the house. So I don't know, I keep wanting to do a prepper video, something that might give people ideas that they haven't done before, or maybe simplify things for people who are wanting to be a little bit more prepared physically. But I feel like I have so many preparation type videos from years ago that I don't know what you guys are actually interested in. So I also kind of wanted to talk about a little bit about spiritual preparation, and if that's not your thing, then don't watch the video. But I feel like a lot of the stress that we're under right now with worrying about our physical world has a lot to do with us spiritually and emotionally. Hey, Anastasia, good to see you. I feel like one of the ways that we're being assaulted the most right now is emotionally. And whether we're concerned about our children's safety or our nation's safety, you know, the reliability of our food stream, our food supplies, and that kind of thing. JD Camp, hello. So if you guys have questions about preparedness, where I would start, where maybe you should start, go ahead and ask them. If you can put them in all caps, it's easier for me to read them. Andrea Blue said, I'm going to start pepper seeds by the phase of the moon. I appreciate spiritual preps. So I feel like one of the best ways that we can prep is to take a deep breath. Find a way to spend time outside. For one thing, vitamin D is so important for your cognitive skills, and you need to be thinking clearly. For me personally, this year's been really hard. We put new windows in the house. I was wearing clothes, all the way up to here, down to the ends of my feet, down to my wrist to protect myself from the sun because I burn really bad. And because of that, I didn't get enough vitamin D this year. And so for any of you who are having emotional issues, some depression, anxiety, I would definitely look into some extra vitamins if you have a good naturopathic doctor that you work with, or maybe even get a blood test and see what are you low in and what could you stock up on, because it's amazing how much our body chemistry affects our emotional state. And the more that we fall into a discouraged, emotional, sad state, the less good we are to our families. Christy Aphrodite said, hello, happy Tuesday. Great to watch you live. Farmer Brad said, do you know of any great family home medical books to have? Where There Are No Doctors is a good one for like emergency medicine. Also, Where There Are No Dentists is another good one. As far as home medical, you can get a nurse's guide, and sometimes you can get antibiotics from your local doctor. You can tell them what it's for. You can say, I just want an emergency kit, and have a few extra things of my medicine on hand. And you can even get some basic antibiotics from a doctor that trusts you. As long as it's not something narcotic, it's not illegal for them to give you simple antibiotics, and then you get a nurse's antibiotic book that tells you how to use them. And that's not illegal to have those on hand. You just have to have a doctor that trusts you. Andrea Blue said, what do you use as an uplifting inspiration when you're feeling conflicted and upset? For me, I have to get outside. For me, talking to God has an awful lot to do with me being outside, getting some good air, having my eyes out in the sunshine. A lot of your vitamin D comes in through your pineal gland. And if you don't have enough vitamin D, you also can't digest your food. Your gut biome is affected by not having enough vitamin D. If you have medical conditions right now that are related to stress, a lot of them can be helped a lot with vitamins. Vitamins that come in food form, vitamins that come in just like vitamin form. But do your own research. I think one of the reasons we're in the situation we're in now is that people are not doing their own research. We are assuming that somebody else has the answer, and I think God puts it on our hearts that we need to be self-improving, self-actualized, that when we have a question, we look into it ourselves and we gain the information for ourselves. For me, one of the things I had to stop this year and that I had to just figure out was that I can't wear makeup on my skin anymore. So if you'll see that my skin doesn't look flawless, it's because I don't wear any kind of makeup on my skin. Like, I'll use a little bit of mascara here and there, but I don't want anything on my skin because I need that vitamin D. I'm so low in vitamin D right now that it's actually a big health issue for me. And my vanity is having to suffer a little bit because I'm aging a little bit and I feel a little bit more sensitive about people looking at me in front of the camera. But again, I think that comes down to spiritual things. My vanity is vanity, and I was willing to let my health suffer, even though I was using organic makeup and that kind of thing. I didn't feel well ever when I wore it, but I would still wear it for my vanity. Are there things in our lives that we are allowing out of vanity to take priority over our health, our family's health? Are we educating ourselves about the things that matter in our own personal lives in this moment? Laurel Dell said, do you know how long filtered water is good for? Well, the filtered water would be good forever, but your jar, if it's plastic, can break down over time, especially if it's in sunlight. So if you have water in plastic containers that's been filtered, keep it out of sunlight, keep it cool. And it depends on the kind of container you have. So do your research on that one. Some plastics have BPA in them, some don't. But anytime you have water in anything plastic, that plastic does degrade over time. So generally you want to rotate your water. You can use that water if it doesn't have a lot of chlorine in it. When we store water, we treat it with a little bit of chlorine. And so when we pump it back out, you might want to boil it first and let it cool before you put it on vegetables or anything. But yeah, when we store water, we store it in a lot of different containers, some very large, some smaller. Some people, when they have extra canning jars, what they'll do is they'll actually, when they do a batch of canning, if they have some spaces left in their pressure canning setup, they'll put in a jar of water. And so you can actually can water in jars and it will sterilize it in the jar. And then so instead of having a whole bunch of empty canning jars in your pantry, fill them with water, can them, put them back in your storage, and they're full of potable drinking water. So, I mean, there's all sorts of ways that don't cost anything to get around some of these issues. B&B Home said, canning this morning and outside this afternoon, spent last week on preparing garden. Do you have any suggestions for a greenhouse? Well, I know what I would do. I have my big greenhouse that was really important to me, that it be a particular greenhouse because of the climate that we have here. Wind is a really big issue here. So my greenhouse, my first one that we bought, that I didn't build, was a Tuff greenhouse, Tuff, and I love it. It was so well made. The plastic lasted for 5 years. This last October, we finally replaced the plastic. So I love that greenhouse. However, I would love to have more greenhouses, and the way that I would do that is I would use cow panels over the top of a hotbed. If you guys have watched my videos and you've seen the hotbeds, cow panels, plastic, build a doorway, you're good. You can also do mini greenhouses over the top of a hotbed, and then you just use PVC as the hoops. I've done all of that. Would I buy another $3,200 greenhouse? No. I would look at the materials I have on hand. I would talk to people in the area that have greenhouses and ask them what is most important. It's very important to have good venting in greenhouses. I don't use the fan in my greenhouse. Instead, I cut another door in the end so that the air could flow through. But talk to people locally in your area that have greenhouses, because it's regional. It's so important that it be regional. In some areas, wind isn't going to be a problem. In those areas, maybe heat would be a problem and you'd need shade cloths. So talk to your local people. Find your local community. Lately, I've been selling a lot of cuttings from the fruit bushes. And everybody from my community that's come in, we've talked about our experiences. And it's been really, really rewarding to give people plants that I know will survive, that will thrive, so they're not wasting money. It's always best to get information from somebody who's local. Let's see. Prairie Girl and Cowboy Homestead said, hello from Montana. Hello. You guys are as cold as we are right now. Oh my gosh. I am so grateful that we have good, strong weather, that we're getting snow, that is appropriate for this time of year, but wow, it's been cold. Off with the Grid says, how do you find balance with prepping and debt? That is a huge one, and one that I have to make some confessions on, is that my husband and I are very anti-debt. And yet when we find these moments in time when we feel like our freedom is under attack, we have almost without exception gone into a little bit of debt. If we feel like we had a little tool that was really important that we didn't have yet, we have gone out and purchased it. Do I think that was the wise thing to do? No. Because also without exception, we have found that we would have had plenty of time to go buy it and use cash. This year, the thing that I did with that was that when coronavirus hit and the transportation line shut down, I freaked out about fences for my goats. I had been meaning to buy cow panels for my goats so that I could finish fencing our property in. I'd been meaning to do that for years and I just never had. And at that point in time, I was like, what if I can't get cow panels next year? What if I can't? And I did. I went into a little bit of debt to go get all my cow panels and my fencing stakes so that I could panel in my goats. And now here I am, almost a year later. Cow panels are still accessible, T-posts are still accessible, but now I have that little bit of debt that I have to pay off. And it eats at my mind. And so I think according to God's law, he doesn't like us to be in debt. And I feel like almost without exception, probably without exception in my life, when I'm patient and I tell God that I need something, he will either make me smarter so that I can figure out how to use what I have on hand, or he will tell me that I don't need what I think I need. In other words, maybe I didn't need goats. Maybe we would have been fine without goats. Or maybe I could have found some other way to have them out in the pasture without having to be on their tethers. Or maybe I just needed to go out and check them more often on their tethers, and that would have been fine. But I think there would have been other options that would have come up along the way that would have allowed me to get that need filled without having to go into debt for that. And down through the years, it's, oh my gosh, we've done it so many times where we panic. We just panic and we go buy something that didn't, was the cost worth what we paid? I don't know. But to me, it feels that way, is that when I panic and when I lose faith and I think that I need to go outside of God's laws to get my needs met, I always end up paying for it twice, All right, Honor 7th A, are solar generators a good thing to buy? By solar generators, what do you mean by solar generator? Are solar generators? Yeah, be more specific about what kind of tool you mean. Christy Aphrodite said, essential oils and herbs have been my only medicine for 14 years, cured all my so-called incurable diseases. We don't go to the doctor very often, and I do have my own little medical kit that I use. Generally, when we have been to the doctor, they've sent us away with something that didn't actually make us feel better. A lot of times it had something to do with us not eating enough of something or overdoing. Exhaustion is a real thing. There's a reason why pioneer women died coming across the prairie. It was because of a lack of nutrition and exhaustion. And if your food that you're eating is not good and you are working yourself to death and you are stressed out and that's contributing to your working yourself to death, those will kill you. Those are things that will kill you. And they kill you along the way by showing up as degenerative diseases. So this year, one of the things I really, really want to add to our diet are microgreens, because our cold season is so long. Even though I have the hotbeds and I'm starting the garden next week, out in the greenhouse on the hotbeds. We still have a window of not having fresh food, and microgreens are one of the ways you can do that. Somewhere that you can get bulk seeds by the pound is Main Street Seed and Supply. And you can get bulk non-GMO garden seeds from there. If you're going to be doing microgreens, you can get to some seed companies and you're paying $10 for like an ounce of seed, and you're never going to get ahead paying those kind of prices on seeds. The boutique seed companies like Rare Seeds, which is Baker's Creek, or M.I. Gardner, or even Mary's Heirloom Seeds, those are boutique seed stores, and you're buying them in small packets, and they don't leave a whole lot of room for error. If you want a big garden that will feed your family, go to these boutique stores to get your information, and of course buy from them, support them, and they will have varieties of seeds that you can't get from one of these bulk suppliers. But for your main, make sure that you have it supply, or your 5-year supply of seeds or whatever. Main Street Seed and Supply is where I get 5 pounds worth of carrot seeds at a time, that kind of thing. That way I have enough to share with neighbors if they need them, or trade them with neighbors if they need them. That happened this year with peas. My neighbor went into Walmart to try and buy pea seeds because he buys his seeds new every year, and they were out of stock. He couldn't find seeds anywhere. And so we love him, and he's always giving us fish when he goes fishing. And so I went and grabbed a pound of each kind of seed that I had that was peas that he needed, and just took them over to him and said, here you go, God bless you. And it didn't hurt at all my doing that because I had enough seeds on hand. So Main Street Seed and Supply is bulk seeds. If you want to do something like microgreens, you need bulk seeds, not little seed packets. Farmer Brad said, when we lived in California, oh darn it, I missed it. Where did it go? Sorry, guys. Oh, for crying out loud, I went down too far. Now I missed it. Okay, Farmer Brad said, when we lived in California, I could mask prepping by earthquake preparedness. See, the thing I don't understand is why would anybody need to apologize for having preparedness? Even if you go onto the government website, they recommend that you have, I don't remember what the website is called, but they have a prepper federal website that tells you what you need to have on hand for your family in case of a natural disaster. Why, why would it need to be something we would hide that we have enough food on hand? That's one of those things that just boggles my mind, that we would have to mask it. I mean, smart of you to do it if it was necessary in your area. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's like we're trying to prove something. It's like we're trying to prove something, that we are so safe and we are so smart and we are so just protected that we don't need useful skills. I don't understand it. When we get into the whole feminism thing, it drives me crazy, because really what traditional feminism was, traditional feminine nature, maybe that's the wrong way to put it. Traditional women had these skills that were real skills. And now somehow we're trying to say that having any kind of skill is bad. If you know how to sew, if you know how to cook, if you know how to chop wood, if you know how to do any of these things, if you are competent in any way, you are being subjugated. And that anybody on earth that has skills is somehow bad. And I don't understand it. I don't understand how being skilled and being independent could in any way make you subjugated. It gives you freedom. It gives you anonymity to have skills. And by putting them on feminine or masculine, even though I do think there are things that I'm really good at that my husband is not interested in knowing how to do, and my husband's really good at things that I'm not interested in knowing how to do. And sometimes they tend towards the feminine, the masculine. How useless is a person that has no skills? I don't understand how that's any kind of badge to wear with pride. Hello, people, I have no skills. All of my needs are met by someone outside of myself, and I don't know how to take care of myself in any way, shape, or form. That is something to be proud. Why is that something to be proud of? Sorry. Flying VS Farms. Hey, how are you? We were watching videos from your place this morning when we came and visited you. Really saying it. JD Camp, you don't need makeup. Well, I definitely feel more confident in front of the camera when I have makeup, but my skin has actually started to be a lot better since I stopped wearing it. And again, I was like scary, lethal low on my vitamin D. I was starting to have horrible arthritis in my neck. My tendons were tightening up so that I couldn't walk. So all the videos that you saw of gardening this year, I could only stand to be outside for a couple of hours a day, and then I had to go get back in bed. So that enormous garden you saw done that year, yeah, we did that. And the way that you work around your own physical limitations is really important. You really have to take it one day at a time, one step at a time, but you have to get up and you have to do it. Even if you're falling apart at the seams, you have to get up and do a little bit towards it every single day. And I know I just got horribly off track, but it turns out that the makeup I was wearing on my face was blocking the vitamin D so thoroughly that I was like ready. I really thought I was going to die until we figured out that it was the vitamin D. I thought I was dying. So if you have something that's happening with you physically, research it. Don't just sit back and take somebody else's word for it, that this is how you are for the rest of your life. I'm doing so much better than I was, and it just was a vitamin deficiency. Make sure you have things on hand that make you feel well in your emergency kits. Farmer Brad said, I took some of our stimulus money to invest bulk store flour, oats, sugar, and rice. So wise. As far as that goes, I don't think there's anything you could put it into that would be better. We do a lot of wood buying and buying feed for our animals. Those are the two things that we really put money into when we have extra, is fuel for heating our home. I do highly, highly, highly recommend have some source of heat in your home that is for cooking and heating that is not dependent on the grid, whether that be a propane stove with a manual clicker or a wood burning stove, whatever it may be. Have something in your home, attached to your home, that is for heat, for cooking and for heat, that is not dependent on the grid. We have a well with a hand pump on it. If you didn't have a well with a hand pump on it, I would say make sure you have a few hundred, if not more, gallons of water stored. We have ours stored underneath our stairs in our home. And at one time, I think we had 500 gallons of water stored underneath our stairs, and it just sits there. And then, as you pull it out, you can boil it. It's just not a big deal. Farmer Brad said, and invested in some Bitcoin stocks. I don't really know about that end of it. I've never been like I have so little confidence in financial systems. I have so much more confidence in real goods. And so John's the one that handles that kind of thing, so I don't really know how I feel about that. But I know that as far as our food for our family, our food for our animals, fuel for our wood stove and things like that, I do like to be at least a year ahead in things like that. Christy Aphrodite said, no makeup for me. I make all my household skincare, cleansers, toiletries, medicines, which is so smart. And it saves so much money and packaging. Anastasia says, you are always beautiful, trust me. Oh, thank you. B&B Home. I had skin cancer. I stopped wearing makeup 6 years ago. So wise. Farmer Brad said, store the filtered water in unused ball canning jars. Exactly. And if you guys didn't catch that, I said that before. When you do a batch of canning, if you have extra spaces where you didn't have a full batch in your canning, just put water in one of your jars and can it, and then put it in your storage. So instead of storing empty canning jars, store them with sterile water in them. Camp Patton Family Compound. Lonnie.com said, what do you keep in your car in case of emergency? Hey, Lonnie, you're the one that made me think of this. So our lovely realtor came over a couple days ago, and she said that she was getting her car kits ready. So for me, what I keep in my car kit is I have flares, I have water filters, I have a little mess kit of canning things. I like to have a little fuel canister with a little cooking platform that is on it. I have wool blankets. I prefer wool, like felted wool blankets. You can get them at an Army surplus store. In fact, if you have an Army surplus store near you, they're a great place to stock up on everything. The bag that I bought for our car kit was purchased at at the Army surplus store, and it had a rip in it, and so I got it for like 30 bucks. I went home and I fixed it. It's a very tall pack. It's like a really tall hiking pack with a frame in it. And then what else do I have? I have toilet paper in a Ziploc bag. I have socks, underwear, a hat in a Ziploc for each person, and then a wool sweater, a cap, and then if it's summer, we have like a baseball cap and sunscreen. What else do we have? I like to have an extra pair of shoes because then if we had an emergency, my kids ever jumped in the car with flip-flops on, all I would need to do is grab inside the emergency kit and grab their sneakers out, and we would have shoes. Because if there was an accident or an emergency, if you have to walk 5 miles from your car to wherever you need to get to for safety, you don't want to have flip-flops on. And if you were in a car accident, you need to get away from your car, and it was winter, and your kids didn't have good shoes on, you'd have frozen toes and that kind of thing. What else do I have in it? I have freezer meal type meals, not freezer meal, freeze-dried type meals, granola bars, things like that. I have a first aid kit. I think I've got iodine tablets in it too, but I know that I have water filters and canteens. So if you had to leave your car for some reason, you need to have a receptacle for each person in the bag that can hold water. It may not have water in it now because it's winter, but you need to have a receptacle in the car so people could put water in it, so that if you had to walk a distance, you could, if you had a receptacle, fill it with water at your next available, optional time. What else do I have? I think that's it. There might be other things. I might have to go through. I have some of those Mylar bags. Yeah, probably what I need to do is just go through my emergency kit and show you guys what is in it. Andrea Blue said, do you have a favorite canned meat, veg, or fruit? We like dilly beans. We do pretty well with pickles, but I don't can a lot of other things. Usually I dehydrate them, but the vast majority of our food that is storage is on the hoof. And that's because my family does not do well with grains of any kind. Very difficult for me to store grains for my family. And so instead what I do is I buy hay for 18 months at a time, and we have rabbits and goats and chickens and ducks and sheep and pigs and that kind of thing. And so instead of buying grain for my family, I buy non-GMO feed for my animals, if that makes sense. Maniac Grammy's Homestead. Hey, how are you? Okay. The Camp Patton Family Compound said the book they like is the Survival Medicine Handbook, the essential guide for when medicine help is not on the way. It's probably a good one. Andrew said, I adore your lifestyle and enjoy your channel. Blessings from Yorkshire, UK. Blessings to you too. We had one of our woofers who's from Ireland contacted me yesterday to say that he has come back to the US because Ireland has been shut down so hard with the quarantines that he ran away to the US again. So that was fun to hear from him. Andrew Blue said, what do you do with your rabbit poo as it builds up over winter? So the rabbit hutches are on top of the hotbeds. The hotbeds are those big high pallet beds that I build. I make a really big one inside the greenhouse, and then we put the rabbit cages over the top of that, and they poop into the hotbed so that I'm not having to use a wheelbarrow or anything to move any of that manure. I'm in good health, but I am not always in good health. And so I try to make sure that my systems are easy enough that all I have to do is come in and poke here and poke here and poke here, and everything's done. All the really hard lifting, all of the moving, all of anything that's physically strenuous, I take that part out of my system. I build ease into my system, because I know that if I have another year like I did this year, where I fed most of the time, and I only had 2 hours a day that I was actually on my feet, I could build, I mean, if you guys saw my garden, it was enormous. We had so much food. We had food coming out our ears, and that was on 2 hours of work a day. The only time I got out of bed. And I could do it because I put ease into my system. Instead of fighting the fact that I was sick, I counted on the fact that I was going to be sick and I wasn't going to be able to put in any heroic efforts at all. And because I planned into that, I counted on it. It was, there was no issue in it just being done. And we fed ourselves and our Airbnbers all year. They didn't have to buy groceries. Hey, Carney, how are you? Let's see, the survivalist said off-grid, pay your debts by doubling up on payment each month. It also improves your credit score. Very true. We pay a double mortgage payment every month. And we always have, except for when we were traveling and we had renters here. We didn't do it at that point. But any other time, that's what we do. Hey, Gossmania, good to see you. Christy Betts. Let's see. Blue Bottle Bunny Farm said, Christy, we're ready. We raise rabbits for food. Let's see. How are we doing? Am I keeping up on things at all? Christy Aphrodite said, woofing. I've thought about that. Can you give us some info on it and how it's been for you? I just bought my homestead this year, and help would be great. We like the woofing. What we like better is Airbnb, because a lot of times when our Airbnbers get here, they want to help. And so a lot of the projects that we did this year with quarantine was that we had one of our Airbnbers, she was on furlough, and so she helped us in all day, to work, and her boyfriend helped when he was around. And it was really good. With the woofing, what happens is you're responsible to feed them and shelter them. And then I think it's somewhere between 3 and 5 hours a day of work that they owe you, like 3 to 5 hours a day, 5 days a week or something. So it's very expensive to feed them unless your garden is really going good. And then you've also got to house them. And so for us, the Airbnb made a lot more sense, because then they come here, they pay us to be here. And then if they want to help with the project, they help with the project. And if they helped with a big project, I paid them for it. And so they got some of their rent money back. But if the project wasn't fantastic and they didn't do a good job, or it was a tiny project and it wasn't a big deal, and they just wanted to help, I didn't pay them. But I mean, the free market really works well. They didn't have to go grocery shopping. I had a huge amount of help. They paid to be here. And it meant that half of my house expenses for the year were tax deductible, because I was using my house as an Airbnb. And so I could deduct half of my mortgage and my heating bill and my electric bill, because I had an Airbnb in my house. Let's see. Hey, Goldshaw Farm, how are you? Good to see you. Your channel's looking good. I've been watching. Let's see, did I miss anything else? Let's see. We sell rabbit food for $10 a gallon. Oh, she's talking about manure, I think. I had a neighbor down the road that used to raise rabbits somewhat commercially, and we used to go get all his manure from him. And even if I didn't raise rabbits for meat, I would raise them for manure because it makes such a difference in my garden. Around the orchards, we use ducks, and their manure does miraculous things for orchards. And then I don't have to cart rabbit manure around. So now we just use the rabbit manure on the hotbed gardens, and we put ducks around the bottom of all of our orchards now. Anytime you can take yourself out of a system and let something else do the work because it wants to do the work, do that, because their nature is to eat weeds and to eat slugs and to poop on top of wherever you're watering your trees. And so them doing that means you don't have to go in and micromanage it because they want to do it. Let's see. 3-card money said, I've gone keto and eat only 1 meal a day, so I save money on food. I've lost 150 pounds. Yeah, and I have done keto at times, and I feel better on keto, but I do keto with the variation that I eat a lot of vegetables, and that works really well for me. I cannot in any way, shape, or form do any kind of fasting, so I've done keto without fasting, and I have to do keto with lots of vegetables. So I think they call, what do they call that, net carb or whatever. Deep South made it in. I hope I'm not too far behind on these. So the reason I wanted to do this live stream today was my realtor came over, wanted to know about our car kit, and then I went and I was watching Deep South Homestead's live show from a couple days ago, and I've been watching all their other videos, and the one that I just watched was Are We Losing Our Faith? And it just made me feel so much better in my day. I thought I would come on, and I haven't been making any prepper videos lately. I haven't been making any like, this is what you should have on hand videos, because I don't feel like I know how to get around it. I don't feel like I can handle the stress of worrying that there are people who maybe are panicking right now, and I don't want to add to the panic. I think Danny and Wanda are really good at not panicking people and giving them good advice that's something you can follow. I know that when John and I were younger, we had people that we listened to, like Glenn Beck, that we always felt like we were in a state of panic, that we never could calm down and relax and enjoy what was happening around us and just grow food and take care of our families. We always felt like we were in such a state of panic, and I don't want to be that for anybody, which is why for me, it's a way of life. And it's why for Danny and Wanda, it's a way of life. They're not panicking and freaking out and going out and getting things because they're scared. They're living the way they're living because they love to live this way, and it's the wise way to live, which is why I think growing a garden, having some wood on hand, maybe having a propane tank with a heater, they're just wise things to have, and I don't think we need to panic when we think about them. I think we just need to be diligent. All right. Okay, XO Love Annie said, I'm a single mother. I need low-cost options. I live in Edmond, Washington. So what we did when we were in Tulsa and we had zero space, we were in a 500 square foot house with 4 people. And what I did was I built the couches in our living room, and that's what the girls slept on. So they were bed couches that were just frames with a camping mat on top. That's what we had. And what I did is I went to Target, which is where you buy them the cheapest. I went to Target and I bought Rubbermaid containers that I don't know how big they were. I've actually got my computer on one. So it was the 56 quart size containers, and they were $5. And then I went and I bought potatoes, and I bought sweet potatoes. And I took the lids off so that they could breathe. Whenever you have root vegetables, you don't want them locked in airtight spaces. So we took the lids off the boxes of potatoes, slid them underneath the beds, and then I went, and as I could afford it, I bought cases of tomato paste. You can use tomato paste to make everything. Tomato paste will make spaghetti sauce. It will make tomato soup. It will thicken up a vegetable soup. You can make pizza sauce with it. You want, because it doesn't have a lot of water in it. It's very concentrated. So you want tomato paste, not some other kind. I would get salt. I would get those containers of salt and store those. I like to keep them in the plastic Rubbermaids, because then for the things that are more perishable, that aren't roots, I can put the lid on and it'll keep mice and bugs out. And I would go light. I would go a little bit light on and easy on things like sugar, because a lot of times the things you're putting sugar on aren't terribly nutrient dense. So as far as sugar, it'd probably be one of the last things I would prep, but that's my personal opinion. I would go for nutrient dense foods first. I would do beans. If you can eat rice, do rice. Do maybe corn grits. But the things that your family eat on a normal basis, if you're not used to cooking from scratch, start cooking from scratch now, because you need to find your good recipes that you can cook from scratch. You get so much more bang for your buck by buying bulk. Like, you can get a 20-pound bag of oatmeal for like $12 if you have a Winco. You can order them on Amazon now. I'm actually boycotting Amazon. I do not believe in it, so I think it's a horrible thing. So I haven't purchased anything off Amazon for a really long time. But you can get bulk things off Amazon, but make sure to do your price comparisons. A lot of times, Amazon is actually more expensive than what you can go and get at your local grocery store. But find your discount stores. Don't go buy your food storage at Albertsons. Go to the places where you can get things bulk and inexpensive and start cooking from scratch, because your pre-made packages and your things like that are so expensive. You're paying for packaging. You're not paying for food. And I would say, if you're a single mom and you're trying to get your preparedness put together, make friends with other moms in the area, especially homeschooling moms. Homeschooling moms, crazy gardener moms, but mostly homeschooling moms, because homeschooling moms generally have to be living on one income. And ladies who have lots of kids to feed and they're living on one income, they're doing it with bulk foods. Even if you're on food stamps, I have never personally been on food stamps. I feel like those who are on food stamps need to really need it. And we were always in a position where we could figure some way not to be on food stamps. But if you're on food stamps because you have to be, use those food stamps and get your bulk cook from scratch items. If you can eat flour, get your flour. Again, I would go for something that had a lot of nutrition in it, as opposed to something that was just straight up carb. Like, maybe, learn how to make cornbread instead of white flour bread. I don't know. That's just me and my own health concerns probably coming out and making me sound like I'm rabid about it. But look on Craigslist. Sometimes people right now are selling equipment that could maybe grind wheat. You can get a wheat grinder. But I recognize that those things can feel overwhelming and feel cost prohibitive. So make friends with the local moms in your area. Find them on their homeschool groups. Make friends. And but the quarantine. Sometimes they're coming at us from so many angles now. I also feel like if you're praying and you're doing your best to find solutions, that God will bring the right people into your life. And I'm also not on Facebook anymore. I don't know if any of you have noticed, but I canceled my account with Facebook and also with Instagram, because I don't know how to be in that world and keep my integrity. I am so against what they're doing with the censoring, and I feel like by being there and conforming my own self, my own beliefs to something that they will allow to be on the screen, I am complicit. Is that the right word? Complicit. I am part of the problem, because I would be changing the way I manifest my beliefs in order to be able to stay on it. And so I just canceled it. Yeah. Let's see. Deep South Homestead said, no microgreens. We just grow regular greens in the field. Until the deer cleaned it up, Julie loved our greens. Oh my goodness. They are the Deep South Homestead is the reason I love greens. Before that I could tolerate spinach, but we got there to Deep South and their food is so good. In fact, I think they just did up another printing of their cookbook. So if you haven't seen their cookbook, oh, the other thing. Okay, so Deep South also has a handbook out there for sweet potatoes, and I bought that this year, and I am determined that here in my horrible, no way I could possibly grow sweet potatoes, I'm going to grow sweet potatoes in my hotbeds this year, and I'm going to use their book to do that. I'm going to do it. Let's see. Housewife in the Woods said 7 kids, 1 income. The key is to always cook from scratch and buy in bulk. It's so true. Let's see. Diana Sims said, organic essential ingredients sells dry goods in bulk and ships directly to you. I haven't tried them before. Organic essential ingredients. I would assume that's the name of the company. My mom really likes Azure Standard. I have a hard time affording Azure Standard. Most of what I buy, pardon me, is conventional because I can't afford anything else right now. And we'll get it from, what we have locally is Winco. It's similar to a Costco, but you can buy the bulk directly without it being put in smaller packages, if that makes sense. So you can buy like a 50-pound bag of beans. Let's see. Oh, it keeps skipping on me, darn it. Blue Bottle Farm said we make our own colloidal silver. You can watch the video on our channel. We have more than one, so watch the one on how to make it. That's awesome. DB said, I was a chef before having kids. I know how to cook from scratch and make yummy meals, but I need friends. Friends are important. It is so important. You can feel so isolated. And friends have good recipes too. Most of the wonderful recipes that I have that are grain-free, and we have a biscuit recipe and waffle recipe and all sorts of other recipes. They actually came from friends when we ate at their house, that they were trying out recipes because they wanted to be able to feed us while we were there, and they didn't want us to starve to death. And so that's where we got a lot of our good recipes, is from people making recipes and then guinea pigging us to see if we could tolerate it. Fried Rice said, I bought 1,500 pounds of wheat seeds from a local rancher seed supply, $16 a pound, wheat grinder from Montana. With seeds, you have to sometimes be super, super careful that they are food grade, because sometimes they'll put like chemicals on the wheat to keep mice and things out of it. If it's meant to be used as seed again, they'll put like pesticides on them to kill mice and rats or bugs, because if they're going to use it as seed again, it doesn't matter. It's a pesticide, not an herbicide. And then so it might have poison on it, or it might not have been cleaned before they bagged it. It might have a rat or mouse feces in it if it was meant for animal feed or seed, because they don't clean it to the same degree. They don't have to have it certified if it's not food standard. So be a little bit careful with that. Animal feed, unless you have a trusted source who grew it themselves and can testify to what it does or doesn't have on it, and they know that you're going to use it for food, be very diligent about that. It can also have rocks in it. If it's animal feed or seed, it can have rocks, it can have dirt in it, it can have chaff in it, and it'll destroy your wheat grinder. But there's nothing wrong with going out and looking to find sources for that kind of thing. Homestead Odyssey, hello. Diana Sims said, amen, Julie. I'm off Facebook and Instagram as well. Yeah. A Cyclone Steve said, MeWe is my Facebook replacement. I've heard of it. I know that they just removed Parler from the internet, and so I'm trying really hard not to have any feels about any of this. I've had some points in this year where I got a lot of feels about everything that was happening, and I'm sure it did not help my health. And so I am sitting back a little bit and trying really hard to stay connected with friends that are knowledgeable, and stay a little bit more off social media and focus. Okay, so this was my favorite part about Danny and Wanda's. Sorry, my nose is itchy. This was my favorite part about Danny and Wanda's video about losing our faith. And that was what has been so strong in my heart lately as I've asked God, why is this happening? Why is this happening to our country? And why aren't you answering my prayers? And what God told me was that my job is to go in and make breakfast for my kids every morning and tell them that I love them. And my job is to sit down and homeschool my kids. And I'll sit there and I'll play my guitar while I'm listening to my kids bicker in the background about how they are mad at each other for whatever reason in their school that day. And then I get up from playing my guitar and I go and I make lunch. And I make sure that my husband feels valued, my animals, and I make sure they're comfortable. And in my heart, I feel God's blessing in that, because it is what is in front of me, and our own personal lives matter in what's happening in the country. It matters because it's us that make up the nation. And if we are righteous and diligent in our own things that we have been entrusted with, it's like the parable of the talents. we can have these things that God has given us, and when we get into this panic mode, it's like we let them drop through our fingers and we let go of the things that we're actually responsible for, looking at this big picture of things that we have no control over, and we let our talents drop on the sand, and we don't even bother to bury them like the one guy did. We're just letting him drop through our fingers. And so in my heart, what God has given me to do is the calling that I'm called to now is as a mother and a wife. And he will bless that because that's what he's given me. And there are others who have other callings that are different out in the world that have to do with activism and other things. But this is what I've been given. And I need to do a good job. I need to take those talents, and I need to go create more talents. I need to go and look for what God has given me out in the world and right now for me, that's taking fruit cuttings off my fruit bushes and making sure that people in my area have fruit trees next year. And selling some of my rabbit stock off so people in the area can get some breeding rabbits. And I'm trying really hard to be connected to my neighbors that I love and check in on them and make sure that they're okay. That's what I've been given. Carney said, I dumped Facebook this weekend. I know. I did it 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. Because for those of you who don't understand the Facebook thing, this is what's happening with Facebook. On October, I think it was October 18th, they sent out a notice to everybody that said, and if you didn't actually click the little notification button at the top, you didn't ever get a notice about it. You had to read it. But they sent you the notice. And what the notice said was that by having and using a Facebook account, you were consenting to their terms of use. And their terms of use included that they could access anything on your computer, including your contact list. They could look at anything on your computer, and that they would trace you even when you were not on Facebook, that they would have little bots that would follow you through the internet when you're not using Facebook. Also with that, it notified you that if ownership ever changed hands if Facebook was ever bought, all the information that they had on you would be sold to whoever purchased Facebook. So the new owner of your information. Same thing with Instagram. Anytime that you were off of Instagram, those bots would still follow you and collect information on you. Anything on your computer, anything accessed through your camera, anything accessed through your microphone, anything you said in that room when your internet in your home was on was recorded. And by using the program, so for Facebook, that was, I think, October 18th. But for Instagram, it was December 20th was the kickover date that if you used the program, that was consent. And so for those of you who didn't know that, that's what it is. Yeah, I'm a cheerful soul right now, aren't I? Dennis Close said, blessings from Ohio. Hello, hello. let's see. Oh, I'm trying really hard not to accidentally have gone down, but I think I did. Yeah, homemade bread is very, it's a skill. And I think it's why, I don't know if you guys know, but there wasn't a lot of yeast for making bread indoors. So a lot of people tried sourdough bread this year. We do a lot of quick breads, and which would be anything that was risen with a baking powder. We do a lot of quick breads. Let's see, a Fishes and Loaves Life said, I have no idea how to cook beans. I know that must sound weird, but I really don't. You just soak them overnight in water, and then the next day you rinse them, put the beans back in, cover them with water, turn it on and cook it. And when they're soft, they're done. Oh my goodness, I think it accidentally fast forwarded me. Okay, let's see. Ritz Rocks and Feathers said, hi, Julianne. I'm really late. I left Facebook 6 months ago, joined Gab. Never had Twitter or Instagram. Gab is excellent. I haven't tried Gab. I'll have to look into that. Rich Jenkins said, currently overgrowing food with fodder and mushrooms. Good job. Homestead Odyssey said, I went to Parlor to get off Facebook. Didn't last long. No, it did not last long. Christy said, agreed with the social media thing. I removed them all from my phone, but I still have my pages for my business. Very wise woman you are. Well, and that's the issue, is that I was reading a book. If you guys want to read it, I actually found it in the beginning. It upset me, but then I tried not to let it upset me. It's called Daemon, Daemon, Demon. And the second book is called Freedom Trademarked. But the first book is Daemon, Daemon. And it's about technology and corporations and government and freedom. And it's a what's the word? It's fiction. But sometimes fiction shows us what we can't see in reality. And it talks about technology. I don't know. I really struggle. With what's going on with technology. Ariana Diaz said, we need new free speech platforms that aren't censored. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Heat Seeker Bus said, I'm living in Northern Ontario, Canada. Having a wood stove is a must. See, and I agree. I think really what you need to do if you want to be prepared is you have to look at your own needs. What things do you get from outside sources that would be really good if you had a stockpile of? In our area, you have to have a wood stove or a propane tank and a heat stove, things like that. Maybe if you're in the deep south, it would be more important to have a generator because you need to be able, maybe you need to be able to run an air conditioner instead. Or I know that Danny and Wanda had issues where they would have hurricanes come in and knock power lines out, so they needed a generator. You really need to look at your own individual needs, your own individual health. What nutrition do you need? What can you not live without? And those are the things you need to have on hand. DB said, I've never done Facebook and I look up IG on my browser, but where else can we go to find community? I like to have community that's in real people, in real time. I love having Danny and Juan as a resource and everybody else on here as a resource, but they're not in my local community. The things that they're doing may have they have motivation for me. Watching them gives me the good feels and the motivation to do what I need to in my life. Their big row garden was what this year, when they were really telling us we need to get our act together. My big row garden that I did this year was because I saw Danny and Wanda doing theirs, and I saw how much food they were putting in on their table. And what I had up to that point just wasn't big enough. And so they motivated me. However, I had to look at my local systems in order to find what would work for me, because what works for Danny and Wanda does not work for me as far as logistics. And having local sources of hay for people who can deliver it so I'm not getting too tired, that's part of my logistics. I need the hay. Our area is very dry, so we can store grain and we can store hay for years Danny and Wanda in Mississippi, they can't store it for weeks because it's too moist there. So they have to find other alternatives. Wow, Camp Patton family compound. A North Idaho internet provider blocked Facebook and Instagram because of their blocking Trump. Housewife in the Woods said, I love Azure bulk grains and beans, etc. That's where we got our last batch of beans, was from Azure Standard. Camp Patton, we love Winco. Yeah, I love Winco. Carney said, Julie, you might have to drive down to Mississippi to get a truckload of Santa into your rock garden to grow sweet taters. I know, right? That's why I'm only going to do them in the hotbeds. I'm going to do them in the raised beds because there's no way that I could grow sweet potatoes here if I tried to do it in the ground. There's no way. Our ground stays cold until like the middle of June, almost July. We just don't have a long growing season. So I'm going to have them in the greenhouse, in the hotbeds, with row covers over the top. But I'm going to do it. Fishes and Loaves Life said, did they warn people? Because I wish every provider did that. Did they warn people? To shut off the server. Gotcha. Oh, cool. Blue Bottle Bunny Farm said, we bought a great hand-operated grinder, vintage, made in Czechoslovakia. It is very strong. That I get a lot of my tools that are really important to me, I get from like Eastern Europe. My cream separator and my pasteurizer cheese maker I got from there. They're very inexpensive and they're well made. Randy Jarvis said it's a 1,400-page textbook written. Oh, okay, Randy Jarvis, I must have missed your previous post. What is it you're talking about? Oh, I totally missed it. You should tell me what it was. Chrissy Bet said, I have a hard time finding your channel. LD Texas said, does anyone know how much wheat I can get from 1 acre? It depends. It depends on where you are. It depends on what your weather is. It depends on what variety of wheat you grow. And sometimes in a humid climate, it's very difficult to grow wheat. It's very easy to grow it here because we're very dry and we add water when we need water, and it allows the grain to dry out. So it really kind of depends on where you are. What, honey?
The chairwoman is coming.
She is coming? She decided she wants him after all?
Yes.
Which one?
Julie.
Oh.
So,
is she already here?
No, she just called.
I don't want her slipping. So when she gets here, you go out and don't let her get out. Tell her we'll bring her out to let her see, because I don't want her slipping. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Wanted you to know.
Thank you. Andrea Blue said, isolation, blah. It's easy to feel isolated during winter in the country, but the difference of ideologies is creating more intense isolation. It's hard on kids. So for us, we have other homeschool families that we get together in very small groups, and the kids just play. And that's what we do. We have a regular once-a-week meeting with them where we all get together and the parents are supervising, and the kids run wild but we all farm. We all have lots of space to go run and scream in. Let's see. Rich Incan said, if you can find Brewer's Red Jefferson wheat for clean seed. Okay. Heat Seeker Bus said, I built my bus tiny home without realizing that I was becoming a prepper. I have dementia and I function better in a small space. Well, I think that's one of the most important things, is knowing yourself, knowing what your own needs are. And instead of like denying your needs, you acknowledge your needs and then you make allowances for it. You build yourself a safety system, a backup system. Ariana Diaz said, on the fresh ground whole wheat, you reduce oil in the recipe to make it rise better. That's a good tip. DB said, who takes care of the moms? God does. And the moms do. All of us moms, we have moms, and we call our moms and we say, Mom, what do I do? and then mom tells you need to take vitamin D and it all gets fixed. Roots, Rocks, and Feathers say control what you can and let the rest go or you'll go crazy. It's so true. It keeps, should I just fall? Okay, followed it all the way to the ground. Maybe I'll just read up from here. Joel Salatin has amazing homestead books for those wanting to learn lots. Yes, Joel Salatin is very good. I have a lot of books that I love too. In fact, I've got almost all of my books up for sale on Etsy right now because I'm only keeping the ones that are the most important to me. The ones that I have already read, that I've gleaned everything I wanted out of them, and the process didn't work for me, those are the ones I'm selling. So when I'm done with all of this, I'll probably only have maybe 20 books left. I'm trying really hard to downgrade and once again make life a little bit easier. I used to have all these books for my Airbnbers to read as references for what we do here. But I've come to terms with the fact that I don't need to hold on to anything for anybody. If it doesn't apply to my own thing that I'm doing, I don't need to hold on to things that are no longer valuable to my family. And so that's why I'm getting rid of a lot of my references. All right. Oh my goodness, Gab is banned. Carney asked, was it aluminum or stainless steel? So the one that I got is plastic, food grade plastic. And I wish it was stainless steel. I think you can get them stainless steel, but they're like $400 or $500. So to me, the fact that the milk is warm, it's not hot, I run it through the plastic as quickly as I can. And then that way it's not in contact for a long time. Blue Bottle Farm, they have a very nice hand crank for their cream separator. All right. All right. I think Shelly Bean said it's been a long time since I've seen you pop up. I haven't been on in a long time because my internet hasn't been good enough to be consistent so that you could actually hear what I was saying. So hopefully you can hear what I'm saying this time. All right. Ashley Slashy said you need a freeze dryer. Things gonna get rough. My mom has a freeze dryer, and the freeze dryer company offered to send me one so I could do a review on it, but I haven't received it yet. But my mom loves it. She absolutely loves a freeze dryer. Oh, weird. Okay, so before I sign off, I'm not sure how long I've been on, about an hour. This is my big advice. Make lists of what you use in your own home, things that are life and death for your family. Right now, for me, that would be a vitamin D vitamin, and I have some other things that I have to take in order to be able to function very well, because it was an accident, but I really broke my health down for a little while because I was under too much stress. I wasn't out in the sunshine enough. I was overloaded. And so now I have to take some vitamins that I didn't have to take before in order to be functioning. Do you have a member of your family who is the same way, that they have some kind of thing that assists them to function? We need our brains to be working. We need our bodies to be strong. And if you have depression, do what you need to do to help yourself. Go out in the sunshine, get walks, make sure you're eating good food. Our emotions and our spirits are under assault right now because of what's going on. But I think that we are responsible to safeguard that, to not let ourselves fall down too far, to look at our families and say, I am determined to have us be happy and peaceful and safe. And so if there's something that you need in order for that to happen, for us, vitamin D, wood burning stove, enough wood. We're pretty good. Look at those things. If you have food allergies, don't have your food storage be things that you're allergic to that would make you sick if you had to rely on them. Learn how to cook from the things that you have that are in your food storage, because if you don't know how to cook them, then you're not going to be in routines that will help you to keep your mind where it needs to be happy. Routines and habits are the way that we move forward in life through hard emotional times. If you don't have routines and habits, then chaos reigns, because you get wound up in your brain and you start thinking about all the scary things instead of saying, what's the next step? Oh yeah, this is when I go scrub the toilet. This is the time of day when I go scrub my toilet. And this is the time of day when I go out and milk the goat. And this is the time of day when I go out and water the garden. And those routines and those habits and the fact that we do them every day help us stay on the path of sanity and of love and of not getting so wound up in it that we're yelling at our family because of the stress. Instead, we're just kind of, if we have to, we just zone out and we go make breakfast and let it be. Find sources for the things that you need that you can get in bulk. Talk to your family. One thing that I'm talking to my family about lately has been, in case of an emergency, my parents are not old, but they are, they're in their 60s. And so I've had little conversations with my dad about, Dad, if something happened to you, what would you want me to do? How would I take care of Mom? How would I take care of my brother? What do you want me to do? I want to ask you what you want me to do. Would you want to come live with us? How can we help you? Try to have these conversations that may feel a little bit uncomfortable, but would give you a sense of, well, this would be the next step. If this happened, this would be the next step. So that you have lists of things that you will do. You have lists of things that you know you already have that you're using, so that you know when they need to be rotated. Food storage doesn't just stay in your basement. You bring it up and you use it every single day. And as you use it up, you buy more so that you always stay stocked up. I'm not necessarily worried about what's happening in the Capitol. I think that our nation is in such a place that we believe that skills are outdated and outmoded, and that self-reliance is evil, and that we have censorship right now. And I think truth can be twisted by both sides. Conservative and liberal sides can twist things so that we are being manipulated. And so I feel like our routines and our families and our neighbors are what will keep us sane, because then we'll see the faces and we'll hear the voices, and we'll remember that we love these people and that they're not the enemy and we're not the enemy, and we all love each other and we're here to support each other. Let's see. So Roots, Rocks, and Feathers said desktop computers don't use apps like phones do. Well, they can. Macs do. A Macintosh computer does use an app on their phone. A PC is a little bit different, but those programs that are like Facebook and Instagram and stuff, they still have bots on them that go through your computer. It may not be an app, but it's still a program, and it does do bots, and it knows when you have an account, and it does trace you, whether you're on a computer or on a phone. Shroom Dog said, if they send out a $2,000 stimulus, buy a freeze dryer. I like that. Carney Hall said, I bought an audio Bible and listened to it throughout the day to keep my sanity. My daughters in their homeschool, they read scripture. And today they were, I think it was Isaiah that they were reading. Oh, and it just struck a chord. I wish I could remember what chapter it was, I'd tell you. Heirloom permaculture. They're a really good one if you want to see how to use your greenhouse really effectively. Starting seeds this week, best investment for 2021. Yeah, I have all my seeds. They're under my bed. I bought them last summer as I was using my seeds in my garden. I stocked up on everything, so I can't buy any more seeds. I'll have to look that up. Isaiah 12 through 13. I'll have to look that up. YouTube has audio Bible videos that are great to listen to. That's awesome. Chris Hansen said, so you don't like tracing? Yeah, that's what VPN is for. Yes, you can get a VPN. At the same time, having a VPN, that doesn't mean that something like Facebook and Instagram can't see your list of contacts and the things on your computer. My understanding is a VPN just misdirects them to where your computer is located, and it pings off of different towers. That doesn't mean necessarily that they can't see everything on your computer. Just my understanding is they can't see your IP address. Flying BS Farms had to disappear for a bit. Hope things are going well for y'all up there. Lots of greenhouse work in the coming weeks. So anyway, I love you guys. I hope that was helpful. I have so many videos on what used to be considered like a prepper type of a thing. But as I get older, and hopefully wiser, I start to see that your lifestyle, it can't be about fear. It has to be about you're already living your lifestyle. And if you want prepping to be something that works for you later, you have to just be living that way now. You have to have a garden every year. If you eat meat, maybe you should make friends with a farmer or start growing some of your meat yourself. If you like to drink water, have some water storage in your house if the power went out. It's just about looking at what's happening in your everyday life and putting in measures that give you more than what you need for today. That's really what it's about. And if you value fresh food, grow it yourself. If you value heat, store it. Don't wait for the grid to go down before you buy a heater that allows you to turn on heat when the grid is down. Anyway, let's see. All right, I think I'm going to go ahead and end. This next video is going to be about the cabin and starting up the rocket mass heater. So hopefully that's helpful. If you want fruit cuttings, I have them over on my Etsy store. If you want some of my reference books, I have them over on my Etsy store. I'm selling them for like half of what I paid for them because they're used now. So, and I have a bunch I haven't put up. I'm just kind of waiting for the ones I already have up to sell off. Yeah. Well, I love you guys. Hang in there. My prayers go out to you that you'll have peace and that you'll find the information you need to live the life that you're meant to live. So I'll talk to you guys later.